Get them fired up and get them to the staging lanes, baby, because 8th Mile Apparel is now carrying Going Bracket Racing merch. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more can be yours today by visiting 8thmileapparel.com. We appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the Going Bracket Racing YouTube and Facebook pages.
Are we live?
We are.
All right. Y'all going to see something a little bit different tonight because my power's going out. I already got a tree down in the front yard. I got my iPad here hanging on my computer screen. I got my phone hotspot on, so hopefully all is well. Man, this has been a crazy day for me. GBR Live. We got Gage Burch on here with us. January 9th, 2024, episode 140 of Going Bracket Racing Live. We got to thank the people who allow this to be live for us for free every single week, every Tuesday, 5 Eastern, 4 Central Time. Man, I'm doing this all off the top of my head right now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, do everything you need to do. TSR Racing products for your Power Glides, Turbo 350s, 727s, 400s, transmission parts and accessories. Hit them guys up. We're going to have a bead lock giveaway going on here pretty soon for those guys as well to help a racer in need. So y'all be looking out for that. It's going to be like a raffle type deal where you get a set of bead locks, conversion type deals, similar to MacFab. But anyway, BRG 3D printed parts, anything you need, Brian Garrett will print it up for you. Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. Driven Racing Oil, use the code GBR10. Get yourself 10% off those products that they offer. Proform Parts, visit proformparts.com for anything you need for your shop, anything you need for your race car, anything you need for your street car. They got it all. Crew Chief Pro software, get those dial-ins in order. I know Don Higgins got some new updates for the Crew Chief Pro software to help you alcohol guys out, help guys like me and George out a little bit. And, of course, if you want some of these GBR accessories, I guess we'll call it, merch, hats, T-shirts, hoodies, all that kind of stuff, you need to visit 8thmileapparel.com. George, I don't even know what's going on anymore, man.
Hey man, good way to be fast on your feet though. You know, you remind me of a younger myself. No, I'm just kidding. Being so quick on your feet, technical wise, and jumping straight to a hot spot and being like, "Hey George, this is Casey at noon, guys." He's like, "Hey, I know I'm gonna have technical issues all day long because it's gonna be storming, so I've got a plan just in case. You might have to kind of lead the call for a little bit, but I'll be right back." Heck, me and Gage are sitting in the back, and we'll bring Gage on in a minute here, but we're sitting in the backstage just waiting. Casey's jumping in. You should have seen the smile on his face. I mean, it was like a candid photo. I should have captured it and shared it to GBR and maybe put a meme or something on it so that you can see how Casey, he was smiling. I mean, it was a good smile. I know we was talking about him beating somebody on the racetrack, so as you can imagine, he's going to smile about that. But Casey, man, it's been a good day. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. Don't forget to type in the live chat, !notify. Make sure you get the notifications when GBR goes live. Without further ado, this man, I don't even think he needs an introduction as much as everybody knows him based on watching him take it to everybody on Motor Mania TV quite a few different times over and over again. So bringing to the stage right now, Mr. Gage Burch. Gage, what's going on?
How's it going, guys? Just got home, like you guys are saying. There you go. Light just flickered. It's storming here too. It's storming everywhere. So.
Yeah, but at least you're on a cell phone, so it'll be all right.
I should be okay.
Yeah, I saw that. I was telling Gage backstage, guys. My dad's a snowbird. Him and my uncle, and they're down in Florida as well. And I think he said they were getting like 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts out where they were. So that can't be all that fun. But Gage, man, thanks for taking time out your busy day, coming and join and talk with the Going Bracket Racing community. It's nothing but a whole bunch of drag racing nuts, including myself and Casey, in the whole Going Bracket Racing community as it is. So I gotta ask, who did it? Who got you hooked on this sport of all sports? The best sport in my opinion. But Gage, who did it, man?
Definitely both my parents for sure. My mom and my dad raced when I was growing up. I used to go to the track and famously would fall asleep on the golf cart and soak up all the knowledge I could until I was 7 or 8 years old. And I just started junior dragsters. My parents got me one and pretty much trained me from there on. And eventually they pretty much took me wherever I needed to go, however we needed to make it work. And it all happened mostly because of them. We're still going today because of it.
Heard that, man. Similar to most, and the same way Casey and I both got hooked into it. Wasn't quite my mom. She didn't come to the track until I got of age to start racing, to be honest. But that's pretty fitting for us to all be hooked onto the sport. I want to say probably 90% of all racers got hooked the same way. What do you guys think?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, probably mostly people's dads, but my mom used to race no box, and my dad would run Super Pro, so I got a little bit of both in my genes, I guess.
Sweet. I'm gonna bring that back up. Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the junior dragster thing, man, because that leads right into my first question, which is you're by far one of the most successful junior dragster racers to ever go into the big money ranks. I mean, I know there's a lot of them now, but there's not as many that are on your level. I don't know if Matt ever drove juniors. I assume he did. Corey obviously did. And over the past several years, y'all have secured a spot as some of the most successful racers that'll ever exist in big money bracket racing. So I just wanted to ask you, what is the key to being a successful bracket racer today?
It's kind of a loaded question, but I don't know. The main thing is just to keep at it. Nowadays, it's so tough that anybody that races with me all the time could tell you throughout our group that you have really hard days and really just it's hard to get any luck to go your way, and you can race the best you can. And sometimes it's just about pulling the line right and being in the right place at the right time. No matter what you're racing, no box, juniors, Super Pro, it's just as many laps as you can get, the better off you are, the better chances you are, and just all in all, if it's your day, it's your day.
Do you think that I guess what kind of advice would you give somebody that, like you said, it's so tight anymore that there's a lot of times where you have passes that could have literally beat anybody else but didn't beat the guy next to you that particular round? What would you say to somebody like that that's sitting here being like, man, I'm throwing down like 8 total. I'm throwing down 12 total and it's not any good. What would you say to encourage them to just kind of, like, would you say just race through it? Like, do you have to just do that sometimes?
One thing my dad tells me all the time, last year was probably one of my roughest years on luck and bad situations and stuff, but he always tells me that just keep it up. There's no way. You've got to be able to do it for longer than they can. So as long as you can think like that, and at the end of the day, when I go to the track now, you race your opponents and you do your best, but anymore, I just try to impress myself. And it's not like a cocky thing. I would say it in a way that's like, you're not just trying to beat the dude next to you. You're trying to do something that actually like makes you proud of what you're doing.
And I mean, realistically, if you can go out there and say you throw down sub 15 runs, I mean, sub 15 is like 7 on the tree and eight at the other end, So at the end of the day, as long as you can kind of just go off averages, you're going to win more rounds than you're going to lose, I guess.
Right. And I mean, at the end of the day, what are you really trying to put down? Are you going to try to put down 15 total every round? If that's the goal and you do it and you lose, you can't really be that upset because you tried to do that and you did it and it just didn't work.
Right.
So
Definitely a true statement. So I'm glad you said that too, because it seems like you're just leading us right on down this rabbit hole that we actually want to go down for once. You know what I mean? Instead of it going left or right, we're going to go straight into mindsets. And this one might be a little tricky, but it might be easy. You may know the answer, you may not. I have a few opinions on this, but young guys versus old guys thought process when going into a race. I've not experienced this myself very often, especially not on a big stage or not knowing, especially like a Joes versus pros or a young guns versus old guys. I call them OGs. But what is the thought process the same, or would you say that young guns are coming in with a little bit different of a thought process?
Well, I mean, it just depends on who it is. There's a lot of people that I feel like when you're younger, you're kind of an underdog, and in that sense, you got pressure on you that way. But there's other people like that have been successful, and they've got pressure on them the other way. But in reality, I think it's easier for some people to be on one end than the other, and whatever situation you fit in, use it to your advantage.
Good answer. Good answer. I'd imagine though, it's kind of similar to what you were saying a little bit ago about coming into every race, almost racing against yourself. The only other sport I feel like it's really relevant in is golf. You can play golf all you want, but you're not playing against anybody. You're playing the course and yourself. That's all you got. You can only be mad at yourself for hitting the ball out of bounds because you did something dumb. So definitely a good answer, Casey, man. What you got next?
So I guess what I would lead into next, man, is that during last week's show, we kind of talked extensively about races not being finished. Now, I know you participate in the majority of the big money bracket races around the country throughout the year. And I just kind of want to have your opinion on what do you think that they need to do whenever you're running into curfews or the race has to stop due to a curfew? Like, what do you think that, I guess I'll have two parts, so I'll just leave you with this first part. What do you think they should do? Say we're racing a 3-day race, 350 granders, and say it starts raining in the middle of the day right now, or we have like oil down or something crazy happens, and that race is only in the third round or something, and we still have 2 days of racing left. Like, should we split the money up amongst who's left? Is there too many cars left? Should we go, like, we've already done buybacks at that point. Should we finish the race the next day? What do you think should happen? Because you've had a lot of experience in this realm.
So, I mean, I'm not a promoter, but obviously I've been to a few races. And first things first, you have to finish the first race. If it's a warm-up race, it's different. But you have to finish the first main event, because say it rains the rest of the week and you start another race, then you finish nothing.
Right.
Second, most races have a re-entry round. If you cut that out and just did buybacks in round 2, you save time, or you just cut out buybacks, or it depends on when the race rains, really. You see some promoters do it some way and others do it another way, and you pretty much just got to pick your poison and deal with it. No matter what you do, you just need to stand by it and make a rule in place and just do it every time. Consistency is really what people want. Like, if we know what to expect when we show up, then how could you be mad about that?
Yeah, coming out of the chat here directly, and this is a question coming from Jared Pennington, Big Jed, asking, how do you feel about the progression of single entry events?
Well, that is a loaded question also. It depends on single entry. Is it true single entry, or is it you can single one car? You could single 2 cars, because that's the difference to me. I don't mind single entry, one driver going down the track, no matter what. But I think it is definitely not single entry or fair to a lot of people, including myself, if you can single 2 cars, if you know what I'm saying.
That's a great answer too, because I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but Peeps Pennington and the Pennington brothers are actually having a race out here at Extreme Raceway Park. I want to say it's tens, but it's one-time nationals or something of that nature, where you can only go down the track one time, period. I don't even think there's buybacks, and I know for a fact, as we lost Gage there for a second, we'll let him chime back in.
Yeah, I was getting a call. I'm back.
You're good. You're good. But anyway, I know that there's no buybacks, and I think it's one time down the track, regardless of what class. So you can't run bottom if you run top, and you can't run top if you run bottom, vice versa. So definitely a great answer there. It seems like that's starting to move into our sport quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that that scenario would be different for me. I think you can run. It depends on the rules. I mean, the rules are the rules, but if everybody can single, I don't mind it at all. I mean, if you let me enter 4 times, I would. That's
Right.
just me. I'm going to give myself as many chances as I can. But if everybody has 1 entry, I have no problem with that either.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I guess going back to the original idea too, the second part I wanted to bring up with that question is what, which the original question was the not finishing races. What do you think could be done to allow this to happen less? And you kind of go off of what Jed said, like, do we need to have single entries? Do we need to, how could we finish more races, I guess? Do more races need to be capped or something?
Well, at the end of the day, Jed commented, so I'm definitely going to pay my respects to them. I've been to a million of their races, as many as I can since I was old enough to drive, and I can't remember a time we didn't finish pretty much everything besides maybe a gambler's race, but that was, we race at Bristol all the time, so it's going to rain at least a day. If you have the plan in place and you have the amount of – when you're putting on a race, I feel like you kind of understand how many cars are going to show up. You have a window, You shouldn't be surprised that there's 300 extra cars or something.
And I know we're racing for crazy money and stuff, and I know the entry fees are getting higher and things, but at the same time, does the track rotator need to go down between every single round? Because we've all raced at smaller tracks. We all know, like, oh, they sprayed the track this time, they didn't spray it this time, and there's variables that would occur that otherwise wouldn't occur. First of all, I think that separates the men from the boys that understand what's going to go on at that point. But at the same time, if we're having bad weather coming in, could we sacrifice having a perfect track every other round versus having a perfect track every round if it means getting the race done?
Well, start off with that. Pretty much the way my buddy BJ and I kind of built my car and designed it, we'd take it to the worst track, and if it'll be good there, it'll be good anywhere. And that's just how we've kind of went about things. So I feel like if the track is anywhat marginal, I have an advantage, which isn't saying anything against anybody else, but it's how I think you should do it, because it's not always going to be perfect. People like Bradenton, for example, people are really spoiled there because it's always perfect. It really is. And it's like a practice race every time you go there. And then you go somewhere that's a little bit worse and it's not the same. And Bradenton's like that with the prep, like you're saying. They prep a lot there in the day, but at the end of the day, it's the racetrack's decision, and the manager, like Wade, I'm going to be honest with you guys, Wade runs Bradenton, and he knows exactly what he's doing. If he thinks he needs to prep every time, I assure you there's a reason. Don't question him. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yep. And ultimately, if you're as long as both lanes are having the same issues, like if for example, if they're both spinning, then they're both spinning. If one's tight and the other one is spinning, now we have an issue, but as long as they're both consistent with each other, I don't really see a problem either way, personally.
Yep, yeah, and I think there may be a little bit of overkill going on, just opinion-wise, in how many times they go up and down the track, and why go 10 times in each lane instead of just doing 5? I don't really know the answer to that question, but I'm also okay with the fact that racing surface has a little bit to do with how safe I am and the existence of my race car. So if, like what Gage says, if he feels that something ain't right out there, hey man, take your time going out there. We can come back later if we got to, but please don't make me wreck my stuff for lack of a track not being prepped correctly. So I'm with you on the answer there. Casey, what you got next, or is it my turn?
That's you now.
It's my turn.
You can't just mosey on through this.
Why not? All right, man. So it's perfect timing, guys. We gonna take a moment here, get a quick break, a few words to our marketing partners. If you guys are interested in becoming a partner of Going Bracket Racing, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, goingbracketracing@gmail.com. You can call me, you can text me, you can send me a snail mail. Put a couple of stamps on it now so it can get all the way down here to Texas, and I'll be sure and get back to you with the best customer service you'll ever experience. So hang in there. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765 729 1177.
Innovation never sleeps at Proform, and we're making our popular Black Race Series carburetors even better by adding new features that will set them apart from the competition. Some of the newest features include a newly designed main body with contoured venturas for better airflow and a new inside and outside two-step down leg boosters for increased atomization and better throttle response. Also, newly designed fuel bowls with increased internal baffling for better fuel control and a lower fuel ramp for reduced turbulence. There are also some new upgrades to point out. The fuel bowls now both include nitrofill floats, and the throttle base plate now has slabbed shafts for better airflow. These new features, combined with a fully adjustable high-flow main body with screw-in air bleeds, billet metering blocks, high-performance billet throttle base plate, and aluminum fuel bowls with sight glass windows, makes for a great street strip carburetor that packs a punch.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Powerglide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
All right, all right. Thanks for hanging in there with us, guys. We are back live here on Going Bracket Racing. Thanks for being part of the community. Thanks for keeping the lights on. Ken Jones Performance, Crew Chief Pro, Proform Parts, Team 14 Motorsports, Syntex Printing, BRG Motorsports, 3D Printed Parts, TSR Racing Products, and not least at all, Driven Racing Products, Driven Racing Oil there. Hey, and special shout out to 8th Mile Apparel. If you like the Door Trucks rule, I like the Door Trucks rule, and it's a true statement, so don't get into it with me because I might have to get a little hostile. But head over to 8th Mile Apparel. The Door Trucks rule shirts are available now. GBR merch is over there at that website as well. So let's keep moving with Gage Burch here. We will go into the next question here. Do we need to chill out on buybacks or doubles now that the participation is high for the big money racing events? Similar to what we've been talking about already.
It depends on the event. You know, I mean, if you're gonna get enough cars, like we were saying earlier, you kind of know how many cars you kind of expect. I mean, to a certain point.
Sure.
And if you think you're not gonna have enough time to complete a 600 car race, you've got to cut something out of it, one way or another. You either cap it or singles, or you got to do something. You got to make sure to have a show and complete everything, or at least try to.
I'm going to reconfigure the question just a little bit here because seemingly we're getting, as the question states, we are getting the participation. There's doubles, there's buybacks for the doubles, there's all kind of things going on. You got 500 cars to run, let's say. Maybe you got, let's just say 500. Can we continue going on the way at the pace that we are currently going with allowing all of that? Casey and I have a good idea here on Going Bracket Racing, and I think the community actually agrees with it, and I'll ask you just here live. What about giving doubles the option to just double and not have a buyback and letting only single entries have a buyback? What do you think about that, Gage?
That could work. I think it would be difficult to enforce and kind of follow as, you know, promoting a race or something, but for me, it'd give definitely somebody a decision, like, do I want to double? Do I want to risk that or buy back? Or I guess it just depends on what kind of person you are. You know, if you're a person that loses first round a lot, then you would probably have to single. And if you feel like you're not going to, then double.
Yeah, and I would feel sorry for, of course, myself. I see a lot with doubles in particular. You guys roll out against each other so often that first round, it's not shocker to see Gage versus Troy Williams. You know what I mean? That first round heavyweight battle that's getting ready to take place in the mix. So would that you think that would make the matchups a little bit more skewed? Is it already even with there being doubles in your opinion, and doubles buybacks?
Yeah, I feel like it's like you just said, most of the time doubles are running each other on the front and the back end. So the people in the middle are singled. So it's not like, I mean, you're going to run the same people a lot, but at the same time, the singled people are kind of on their own, which I feel like is fair also. So I feel like
Well,
I don't see a reason to change it personally, just because it's worked for so long. But I could definitely get with small change here or there.
and if you're doubled, ultimately you have no choice but to get up there first, and you have to, at best case scenario, you got to come right back, which is probably 30 minutes, which you know how the lanes get after 30 minutes. You're in lane 3 or 4 over, and you're going to be
Right.
sitting there an hour and a half. So that's probably true, I guess, whenever you really go down to it. I wanted to get into being a hired gun versus driving your own car, because I know you do a lot of each. You drive the Mustang a lot. You drive cars for other people a lot. I know, obviously, biggest race you ever won is in Matt Daddis's $8,000 truck or whatever it was, which was great to see too, because it proved, and I said this whenever our show was in its infancy pretty much, but the greatest part about that whole thing, and I don't know if, I'm sure you realize this, but the thing I really liked about it, and a lot of people liked about it, is it showed that anybody can win and anybody can compete on the highest level with something that's not expensive. And that's really what I think is great about what Nick Hastings has done. Because that car, if it wasn't Nick Hastings' car, and I don't mean this bad, I always feel bad saying this, but it's how I feel, and I think Nick would agree with me that car would not be worth a whole lot of money if it wasn't his name on the window, if he was to sell it. But anyway, going back to being a hired gun versus driving your own car. Some of the greatest that have ever done it, do it different ways. Like Shane Carr has pretty much always been a hired gun. Your buddy Matt Daddis pretty much drives his own stuff. And we see you do a little bit of both each year. So is it any different driving for yourself versus driving for someone else?
It is, but it isn't. I mean, when I drive for somebody, it's usually, somebody I trust me, or vice versa. I treat their car just how I would my own. So to me, it's not much different. The reason I do it a lot is because with work and being home and stuff, like if a race is further than like 12 hours away, the time it takes me to travel there and back, and what I'm missing from work and stuff like that, it's just easier just to fly and drive for Matt. Matt makes it easy for me, and the people that help us definitely make it easy. So it's really just a convenience thing. And if you have somebody you trust and you guys have a good relationship, and me and Matt, when we put the Chiva together, we were in the garage for 3 or 4 nights straight, all hours of the night, all day, and it's like you guys, it's friendship, and you make a bond through that, and it's something that just couldn't break.
Do you think, like, for example, obviously when you drive Matt's cars, Matt's cars, probably about what you're going to be in it. If Matt's this in it in the box, you're going to be this in it in the box because you've driven the same cars enough. Say you just show up somewhere and somebody's like, I don't know, say something happens and your car's out for whatever reason, and somebody comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, Gage, just get in my car." How do you approach that? Like if you're going into a round, because most of these rounds are blind rounds anymore. If the cars went down the track, then if you want to race, then let's go run first round. How would you approach that first round? Do you go into it, just holding a bunch and hoping for the best, hoping you can screw the other guy up and hoping you keep it green? Do you go up there and kind of have an idea of, oh, it's this type of car, I had this in the box and this type of car, and I'm going to just hope I don't have to buy back? Or do you just go out there and make a time run and buy back?
So really it depends, top bulb or bottom bulb. I guess top bulb, you kind of deal with the delay box, you get a practice tree and whatever. I'm usually a little bit quicker than whoever I get behind, so I'll put a little bit in. And then especially if there's a buyback or I'm doubled or something, which is the best case scenario, I would put almost not enough in the box, if that makes sense. Like I'm going to be like 000 or low 00 or red. That way I can get just a wide open. I know where I'm at in the tree. Like if I lose, it's no big deal. I'm going to treat it as a time run. No box, it doesn't matter if it's first round or not. I usually foot brake, and if I jump in something, I've did it a few times, and I usually get pretty close. I'll like go up there, do my burnout, and then I'll like bring it up, do a dry hop, and see how it leaves. And you can tell by the way a car reacts when you floor it if you need to crank up the RPM more, you need to crank it back down more. So that's pretty much where I go at. Just try to get myself comfortable and just try to make a good run. I mean, like I said, best case scenario, you're doubled or you have the option of buying back and you just use it as a time run. But other than that, then you just got to trust what you think and go up there. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. You just got to be committed when you go up there.
Yep. Do you think that thought process resonates across the board? I know you probably don't look in the other lane that often. Maybe you do. Maybe you like the feeling of, hey man, that's Scotty Richardson in the other lane. Now I'm up on my horse a little bit different. I don't know. You probably treat it all exactly the same. But do you think everybody attacks, racing top to bottom the exact same way? Kind of with, you got to go out there and do what you got to do.
I honestly couldn't say. I try to I stay in my own lane.
I hear you.
I don't know what everybody has something different that works for them. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to do something that works for somebody, unless it's somebody that's really similar to you, like a good buddy or something, like it's probably not going to work for you. You need to figure out on your own what works for you.
Yep. No, that makes sense. So we come into the next question here. We've been talking foot brake. We've been talking a little bit of top. Which is more difficult is the first one I'll ask here. And then in your opinion, why would you say it's more difficult or easy, top or bottom?
This is actually really funny you just mentioned this because was it Sunday? I believe it was Sunday night. We picked up my girlfriend Nicole's family from the airport, and her dad asked me this question just kind of randomly. So it's kind of funny. And I told him, I was like, that's a loaded question. Like, let me think about that. And so let's just start off top bulb because it's top. But top bulb, it's easier to make a better run, so it's harder. And cars are usually better on the trans brake and easier to be better. And you got all the electronics and you got the shift on time. You can do whatever you want. And so in theory, it's harder to win because everybody's better, but it's also easier to make a good run. And then you got foot brake or no box where you don't really have as much adjustment on the tree. I feel like it's not difficult now, but I feel like starting out, it's probably more difficult to have a good foot brake car than it is to have a car on the trans brake. So that's something you got to work on to get the right converter and carburetor combination and all that. And so it's definitely harder to make a better run when you're no box and you're foot brake. And I feel like, and it's probably different for more people, but I tell people all the time that I don't really no box because I do in a few vehicles that you either don't allow deep or I can't foot brake shallow and have a good spot. But no box to me is almost like cheating because it's pretty much the way box on the bottom when you got a terminator button. And I'm telling you, when a good bottom bulber gets on it, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I drove the Overkill Firebird for 6 months or whatever while my car was down, and there'd be days I'd go out there and I'd be like, wow, I really missed it. And I was 18 and I wouldn't be any better in like 6 on the day. And it's nothing to brag, but it's almost too easy to be, competitive with that. You could take almost anybody and do it. So I don't know if I really answered your question or not.
You did, but of course it leads down the rabbit hole. This is another good one, of course. And we're talking about drag racing, so it's going to be tough to find a bad rabbit hole. Let's throw the objective of foot braking into the mix now, though, because it seems like you got the foot brake. Is it the foot brake 150 or 250? Whatever race it is that's going on down in Gulfport, I think, right, Casey? The 150. Anyway,
it's 150.
If we're foot braking, does all of what you just said go out the window?
Which part?
The part where you have a terminator button, because I've always wondered, some of these bottom bulbers, I'm telling you right now, you put them in the mix with top bulb, and they still wax you. It is what it is, right? These guys are, like you said, you find a rhythm, or I don't know if they're doing a little head nod, yellow. Oh, shoot, it is. I don't know what they're doing in
right.
there, but
so yeah, definitely foot braking. It takes a little bit more skill, I feel like, because if you just, even if somebody that doesn't race, tell them to get in their daily car and just order the steady RPM while not looking at the tack. Like, it's
Yeah.
going to creep on you. So you have to kind of adjust your react while, you know, good foot breakers and stuff, they have their stuff where it doesn't move much. But in reality, it's definitely requires some hand-eye coordination and multitasking and just being aware of your situation at all times and good brakes, obviously, and just everything's just so fine-lined with that. Like, I feel like your converter can be close with top bowl, but it'll make up for it because you're on the trans brake or stuff like that. But a foot brake combination, like, I feel like everything has got to be almost to a T to be as good as a trans brake combination to me.
And you have to know so much more. See, I agree with everything that you said there, because in the Southeast, we don't allow trans brakes for bottom bulb. Bottom bulb is foot brake out here. And exactly. I mean, because in my opinion, if you have a trans brake, you should just be on the top, because I can tell you right now, I've practiced it on the practice tree. I took 6 months last year, mostly because I was trying to save money for my new car. But I took 6 months last year and tried to run bottom bulb. And I told every single person, I've said on this show 1,000 times, bottom bulb is way harder. Foot brake, I should say specifically, is way harder than top because it requires so much more discipline. It requires the fact that, for example, if you lower your RPM on the converter, your car's maybe not going to run as fast because you're not leaving as hard. I mean, if you're a car that's dialed 560 and you run a opponent that's 6 flat, then you have this much converter heat. And if you run somebody at 750, you have way more converter heat. Did that make it flash higher? Now it's going to go faster. Like, there's just so many little intricacies that you need to know as a foot breaker that you really don't need to know, especially when you have pro stage and things like that in your top bulb car. But I have a couple questions over here, actually, from Don Higgins, Crew Chief Pro Software. He has a couple questions here. Question number 1, do you change your delay whenever you hot lap rounds? So I guess in the aspect of, if your transmission's getting hot, do you change your delay box at all?
No, unless I feel like I need to. I'm not you guys mentioned Datus earlier. He's actually the exact opposite of me. I usually will have a number in there and I don't really move it much unless I need to. Yep. He'll move it a thou back and forth, and I'm like, you're crazy, dude. If I pull a thou and I'm a thou rat, I'm gonna be so mad. But yeah, I don't honestly, and it depends on what car you're into. If you're in a car that has a super loose converter and it's like super, 350 degrees and you're pulling up there, melting the powder coat off of it, then you could have to change. But my combination, my FTI stuff and trendy cooler and all that, I'm telling you right now, I can roll up there, and I was like last weekend I was foot braking, but at New Year's I ran within 4 minutes and I didn't change anything.
Wow.
Here we go. I'm back.
Call. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's called me twice since I've been on here. So.
Tell him to check YouTube or Facebook. He'll see what you're doing.
Right.
But it's definitely all in your combination.
So question number 2 is, what do you work on to discipline yourself between top and bottom bulb?
I probably don't do as much practice or anything as I should, but I just treat it as like 2 different races. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you can translate stuff, but other times you can't. Like for example, my car usually runs half mile an hour more in no box, so it's flashing the converter different and it's doing different things down track, stuff's multiplying different. So in reality, it kind of keeps me motivated to keep it totally separate. And it's pretty rare. Like, I know people probably don't see this, but it's pretty rare for me to go out there and just be just as good in top and bottom every time I go out. Like, there's usually one way I sway, and even if it's just minimal, I'll definitely feel more comfortable on one side. But you try to do the best you can and just keep them as separate as you can, or if you can hit the bottom and both, send it, do that.
And I know that go ahead.
Here's a funny one, though. While we were talking, I ran a poll on Facebook that says, which way is easier, top or bottom? 100% say top is easier. Shocking, right? Because honestly, we talked about this backstage too. Show up to a top-bottom race just a little off of your game and watch how fast you wind up going back home. Right? So, right. I mean, I don't know the differences in between because I don't run bottom. But seemingly, if you miss even a little bit in top bulb, your day is probably over. you know. So
Well,
Right.
that's interesting. The community said 100% top bulb is easier. We must got a lot of bottom bulbers over here, Casey. That's what it is.
well, I'd like to get Gage's opinion on this because this is something I've said quite a few times, and you being somebody who's been very successful in both classes would be able to verify this or not. But my thought process is always after I've tried significantly doing a lot of bottom bulb races, and not just like I didn't just do one, I did 6 months of it, you know. And what I've determined pretty much is I think your average bottom bulb racer could be a great top bulb racer, but I do not think your average top bulb racer could be a great bottom bulb racer. So what do you think about that statement?
Yeah, obviously it just depends on who it is. You know, I mean, some people could, like Nick Hastings, obviously could
Right.
drive a shopping cart better than most of us could drive our race cars. So it doesn't really. I understand exactly what you're saying, but yeah, definitely anything you do that takes more skill and practice and stuff, you're going to be exactly what you said, pretty much. You know, the average competitive bottom bulber will probably be better off in top than the other way around, just because top bulb for me is kind of difficult because I bottom bulb for so long that like I have like the patience and I think about it too much. Like if I was just up there and could clear my mind and just let go as soon as it come on every time, like I'd be
Can't
so
bump
much better
down.
off. But
No bump
yeah,
down, up, whatever.
me and Matt talk about this all the time. I feel like since we run bottom bulb enough, we almost have like 2 spots on the top. We can't tell when we miss it sometimes, and it's like, man, I think I just hit my bottom bulb spot on the top or something. I don't know.
And I don't know if you ever would have experienced this at your age, but if you've ever maybe went to somebody's house and hit the practice tree or something, have you ever hit it with an amber bulb versus hitting it with a LED? Because
actually, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, is that your question?
Well, my question was, well, I guess it was more of a statement, I guess, and see what your opinion was. But whenever I was, so I turned 16 in, I guess, 2001 or 2, something like that, and went straight from junior dragsters into big cars. And
You're
they still,
retired.
Yeah, something like that, I guess. So thanks for that. But it makes me feel a little better why I suck so bad. But anyways, whenever they were doing the transition over, see, the original transition, I don't know how many people know this, the old guys will know this, but it was because the fuel cars were vibrating the amber bulbs and it was destroying the filaments is why they actually switched to LEDs. There's no other reason why. Well,
is that like 2000?
Yeah, right around in there. And what I noticed was that was still whenever every once in a while you'd have to cross over because this track didn't have crosstalk and things like that yet. Well, whenever you let go on an amber bulb, you know when you miss it. When you let go on an LED, you can either let go and you're either the guy that lets go and is like, oh, I missed it, and you're actually like 5 still. But if you miss it on an amber bulb, you're like 40, you know, and you know you missed it when you missed it, so you just go to town on the bump down. So anyway, I guess what were you going to say about that hitting one versus the other?
So I'd done it a few times, but like I never had 2 practice trees like next to each other to know the difference. But this one time we were racing, this is back like Summer Super Series when I first started I was driving for my buddy BJ. He owned my car before me, and I was running hot rod 7 flat, and we get to West Palm, and they have a race like they always do, double or whatever, and we rank the time runs or whatever, and I guess I really didn't notice because it's pro tree, but the classes that were full tree, the middle bulb, something was wrong, I believe, so they changed it to, you know, the standard bulbs and just sent us out there for first round. So I'm like, I've never raced on one of these before, and hot rod's first out, of course, and I think Troy Williams was like the first pair out because obviously he's probably going to know better than everybody. And I'm like, I'm sticking at the back because I've literally never seen one of these ancient dinosaurs before. So I let him run first, and then he comes back and he's like, I pulled this much, and I don't know if it was enough. I don't think you can pull enough. And I pulled a bunch out and I let go, and I'm like, oh my God, if that's green, I got to be 000. And I think I was like 20 or something, but it's way better off than most, you know. Right. It was just a fun deal.
Right. Now, I would imagine at this point though, and kind of to Casey's point, whenever you miss it on LED, you think you missed it, but you actually didn't. I'd have a feeling that, and you talk about Dadis quite a bit, so I'll bring him into the mix too. He'll be on the show eventually too. I just need to send him a text message and say when. But I have a feeling you're pretty in tune with that thumb. to where it isn't necessarily, maybe it's about how your car reacts, but it's probably more of the feeling that you got when you let go. That's more of a question for the community, because I guarantee you somebody's sitting here thinking, when you let go of the button, how do you really feel or call out if you're on or if you're off?
Hope for the best.
Are you talking about the words I say, or how do I?
Uh-oh. Yeah, I got you. That makes sense.
Me and Matt got an ongoing joke because we watch YouTube videos of racing and stuff all the time. But like Jeff Heffler has some YouTube videos, and he says like he'll let go on the bottom and be like, I clipped it, and that's what I say all the time. Every time I let go and I'm good. But when I'm bad, I don't really much. I try to adjust what I can, but.
And then here's another question.
I'm one of those people that I'll let go and not really know I missed it, and I was 20. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll try again, I guess, later.
Here's another question out of the chats from Brian Garrett. He says, "What do you do?" And it's seemingly you'll probably have some type of an idea. I have an opinion on the matter, but what do you do in between those long rounds to stay fresh?
I don't really have like a ritual or something, but sometimes sometimes I'll leave the track. It depends. If there's 6 hours between rounds, I'll leave the track and go get lunch. I'll take a nap. I'll do whatever. I'll go watch my buddies race. To me, it's just passing the time and enjoying your time there. And then if you can just have a switch in your head where you can turn on and off. I mean, to me, like I only really need to focus for like 6 seconds. That's it. Like if I can focus for 6, 7, 8 seconds, then that's all I need. So if you break it down into that and you can do that 10 times a day, then it doesn't seem that hard.
There's a real good racer who told me the same exact thing. I bet you know his name. It was Troy Williams. He's like, man, all you need is 5, 6 seconds.
Right. I can usually focus for 6 seconds, but unfortunately, I'm usually dialed 650.
yeah, that's an issue. Then you got to work on that.
So, Gage, you already said I don't know if we were live at the time, but you said between your job and doing this, that, and the other, and that's why you drive other people's cars. So I guess it was during the show, but a lot of people think Gage Burch races for a living. So this would be a good question for you. Is it possible to make a living bracket racing in 2024 with all these big purses we have? I mean, you've won one of the biggest races there ever has been and will be. What does it take? Is it even possible, first of all? And then what does it take to make that happen other than just winning races?
I mean, it's definitely possible, but it's just not a life that I think I want to live, I mean, to me, I don't feel like it depends on your situation, if you're starting a family or whatever you're doing, or you got people that depend on you, but you don't want to go into a racetrack like, man, I got to win so I can buy groceries this week. Like, that's just not my thing. And it kind of takes the fun away from it too. I feel like if you're that pressured to go into every race and stuff, but you definitely, I mean, whether you race for a living or not, you got to put yourself out there and try to get as much help as you can. And that stuff just makes it a little bit easier on you at the end of the day.
And two of your biggest mentors are Troy and Gary Williams, who are kind of some of the originators of racing for a living, big money bracket racing back in the day. So I'm sure that they had some things to tell you, because all of the young guys typically, because I mean, you were winning like crazy. I remember hearing about you before you were 16 years old. And so if anybody was going to race for a living, it was going to be someone like you. So I know at some point, at least in the back of your mind, you had to have thought, man, can I do this? Like, how many people do you think legitimately are racing for a living right now?
Honestly, I don't know, 20, 30 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. I mean, the problem is, like, certain people are racing for a living, but they also have a side gig. And then, like, how do you count that?
Right.
So
do you think it's kind of like you always see that World Series of Poker or something? Because there's a lot of similarities between playing poker. I mean, Champ McCory will tell you he's a great poker player and a great racer, and that's another guy
good
that
at
I'm sure.
Football too.
Yeah. But, is it kind of similar to that, where like maybe 10 guys will get together and buy someone like you in and say, man, this is who our horse is for the race. And you got a car, and the rest of us will get money together, and we'll send you there with our car and our trailer and our motorhome and stuff like that, and put all their money behind you. Because I know there's a couple guys that kind of race that way every once in a while. But do you think it kind of, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you think that the people you think are racing for a living, like the average person that sees, for example, Jeff Serra is always at all these races. A lot of time he's driving for Withrow or somebody like that, or used to be. Troy and Gary, I know, drove for Bloomfield for a long time back in the day. Do you think it's more so that aspect where you're having certain guys gamble on this guy and then this guy's taking a cut of whatever he wins?
Yeah, I feel like the most part of the people that do race for a living have at least a backer that pays for entries or engines or something. Somewhere along the line, you need help to do it yourself. I mean, everybody goes on a hot streak, but you're not always going to have your best year every year. And that's the problem. Right. You're going to have down years and you're going to need help. So,
and I mean, ultimately,
yeah,
if you're a guy that has, like, say somehow I'm some rich dude or whatever, and I got like 5 cars. Those cars aren't making me any money just sitting in the corner. And if they're not for sale, I'm not going to make any money off them. So I would be better off if I had the money saying, hey, Gage, you want to go drive this car at Spring Fling or something like that? If you got no other ride or whatever, you want to go do this? Well, if you're not at work, then why wouldn't you if I'm paying for everything or something? And then you got a chance to take home something for nothing. And then that car could make someone like me money from sitting in the corner. It's not making anything. So do you think there's guys like that out there too?
For sure. There's all kinds of people out there. So there's definitely people like that. And, there's always opportunity out there for whatever you're trying to do. And it's just up to you to go out there and get it.
You got to find it. So, man, look, we talked about this backstage a little bit. You know where I want to go is St. Louis. I've got to go to St. Louis this year at least once. At least once. I promise I'm coming one time. I'm coming home. What race are you looking towards coming into 2024? Is there one in particular, or do you got a series that you wouldn't mind taking the championship on? What you got going on for 2024?
Honestly, usually I just look forward to the next one. And but obviously, how do you not go with the OG Million? I mean, that's the race that everybody's like, I don't care what happens, I'm going to it. And that's how, we are too. Pretty much anything and everything I can go to. I don't really go to anything that I'm not like super motivated to go to or super pumped about, because at the end of the day, it's going to change how you race and change how you do. So
at these races, do you like cheese waffles?
I've never eaten a cheese waffle. Now, Seth Lancaster has eaten a cheese waffle and didn't even know there was cheese on it until it was finished.
So Brody, quick, the answer to your question is no. He says he's never had cheese waffles before.
Me and Brody did order Seth. Okay, so Seth was passed out in the back of the truck when we went to Waffle House. We ate inside and we're like, man, should we give him food? Yeah, we should get him food. All right, we'll get him food. I don't know how it got brought up, but it was probably me. I was like, we should get a slice of cheese on there and see if he knows it's on there. So we get him back to the Airbnb, and we were like, here, we got your food or whatever. He's eating it, eats the whole thing. We're like, dude, you didn't know there was cheese in your waffle?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good prank.
It's always a good time with those guys.
Hey, good question, Brody. Thanks for that.
So, building off that OG Million comment, man, I got something just popped into my head. Obviously, we know Donnie Hagar foot braked his way to the OG Million this year. Literally the most viral thing that happened in bracket racing this year and probably in recent history, in my opinion.
Sure.
So that got me thinking, you know how a lot of these big races now, they have the 48 car bottom bulb side, and Andy Schmall won the Vegas race, right? The Spring Fling in Vegas through the foot brake side. I think he ended up using his delay box to win the race, but I think he won his way through the foot brake side and then put the box in maybe or something like that. But as somebody who does a little bit of both and is competitive in both, do you think that the foot brake side is the route that if you're an upper echelon foot braker like you or Nick Hastings or Donnie Hagar or somebody like that, Rick Bear, somebody like that, do you think that the key to winning, or I guess not the key, but do you think that is a good route to take to enter bottom bulb, because then you're usually falling into like 7th round of the top ET race? Is that a path that more upper echelon and bottom bulbers should consider versus, like, take you, for example, you're just as good on the bottom as you are on the top. Do you think if you were on that bottom bulb side that it would be a better path for you to take to get to that 7th round?
I guess it just depends. I've been on both sides and done well on both sides, but I've also had horrible days on both sides where I thought I should have ran the other side. But just have a game plan when you come in. I mean, at the end of the day, you talked the 48 car no box field or 12 or no matter what it is, if it's paying good money and you're a bottom over, it's going to pay to enter that race, you're probably a pretty bad dude. And if you make it through the rest of the dudes that think they're bad dudes also, like that no boxer that gets through that beat Nick Hastings, Lucas Walker, Kevin Pollard, all them, like they're all capable of winning a no box or a box race on the bottom. So if he got through all them and he's in like Donnie, like he can win the race. Why there's no reason why they can't.
Right. Now, follow-up question to that exact same thing is, if it's you, then would you think you would be better off having 2 hits off the top, being double entered in top, because you can usually only have 1 entry in that bottom bulb side and you got to have the other one in top? Would you be better off having 2 hits off the top with your delay box or having 1 in each?
1 of each.
It definitely depends on what I'm driving too. Like there's certain cars that I don't feel super comfortable hitting the bottom end just because I'm out of my comfort zone. Like if I go drive for Matt and drive the Achieva, I'm probably gonna get 2 hits on the top just because I don't drive it that often. I would like 2 hits, especially you go to a race that's no time runs, right? How many races are like that nowadays?
Right.
And you're all in there, no time runs, and you're like, man, I'd really like another hit or whatever. So just double off the top, and then you got, at least another hit before you get the buyback or whatever.
Yep.
Right.
Makes sense, man.
Yeah, man. George, you got anything else in the chat real quick?
Chat wise, no. Thanks everybody for chiming in. You guys were pretty busy. Had my eyes going up and down and scrolling and all kind of junk. But definitely thanks for chiming in and giving us some good questions to ask Gage, man. Casey, what you got left?
No, man, I wanted to make sure we didn't have anything in the chat before I told Gage. I know you got a lot of people to thank, man, before you get off here. So this is your opportunity to tell them all thank you and give you some more for the next year, maybe.
Did he freeze?
Yes. Obviously, I gotta thank
thought he froze.
I don't have anybody. Don't worry about it.
No, not yet. I might freeze.
Who you got to thank before you get off here, man?
Definitely company I work at, and they help me out with racing pretty much, and encourage me to go racing as much as I can. TBM Brakes and Motion Race Works, really cool people. Mickey Thompson, FTI, Mosier, Matt Daddis and his dad, Jim Daddis, my family, mom and dad, my girlfriend, Nicole, that's pretty much okay with anything I really need to do, and she'll go with me as much as she can. She's not being a NICU nurse, and thank you guys for having me on. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a few people, AFR cylinder heads, and I hate to leave people out, but appreciate everybody. Even if some people think they're not doing a lot, but if you just help people out in a certain way and it encourages them to spend more money in another place they wouldn't have, then it goes a long way. That's what I always tell people. And thank you guys for having me on here and just letting me get my name out there a little bit more, and I enjoyed it.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate you coming on with us. Appreciate you literally right whenever the show came on. I don't know if we said this or not, but everything on my house blacked out. And now it's been fine this entire time. So I could have been on the computer and had everything normal this whole time. But the wind picked up out here for sure. This is whenever the bad stuff was supposed to come through, right during the time I needed it not to. So appreciate everybody sticking with us on this stream.
Yeah, we may have been a little bit behind, but thanks for hanging in there. You guys, thanks for typing that exclamation point notify in the Facebook live chat. That way you can get notified every time Going Bracket Racing goes live with a new guest or a new show or whatever the heck we're going to be doing for that day. But as you know, we're live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central, 5 Eastern, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Hang in there, be safe, and see you later.